Well, as you said, the Russians have resumed their airstrikes overnight against the capital, Kyiv. That's the first time in 12 days that they've been attacking. 8 drone attacks, 3 cruise missile attacks. The Ukrainian air defences apparently shot them all down. But as ever, some of the debris falls down. 3 private houses were apparently destroyed and 1 person injured. If you look slightly wider, though, in Bakhmut, there's been attacks by the Ukrainians moving north and south of Bakhmut. We've been talking about Bakhmut now for over a year. Of course, the Russians took it. And what almost certainly will happen is that the Russians will not want to lose Bakhmut again. They took it on the 21st of May. And by all accounts, the Russians are reinforcing their units around there with elite forces, and that probably plays the Ukraine agenda, because if their Russians are reinforcing, they must be taking them away from elsewhere. The other interesting news is the Antonivka Bridge. If you remember, that's one of the bridges over the Dnipro River, and we can see it there, with the Ukrainians off to the northwest and the Russians to the southeast. Apparently, there's been, obviously, the Ukrainians are trying to do a counter-offensive across the river. They've had up to 70 Ukrainians hidden away under one of the spans on the Russian side of the bridge. And the Russians have been throwing lots of soldiers to try and take them out, losing lots of soldiers. But by all accounts, the Russians have put their special forces onto it now and an Islander missile. And by all accounts, they now have re-established control of the eastern side of that bridge.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Now, we've talked for, 3 weeks or so about the counter-offensive. It has begun, but we haven't heard too much recently. What's going on with that from the Ukrainian side?
President Zelensky has admitted it's going slowly, but it's also worth pointing out that its initial skirmishes, while all the way along the front line, trying to work out where the weaknesses are. But interesting, General Mark Milley, who's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has also recently made an announcement that talked about how this offensive was slow, but in his words, it was difficult and bloody fighting. It was just the nature of war that this was going to be a difficult phase of the war. He also said he expects that it could take up to 10 weeks for this initial phase to play out. And it does seem as if he's trying to manage the West's expectation, because there was a view that as soon as this started, they'd be rolling through it. It was always going to be a slow start.
Russia looks to have cancelled its prestigious annual international air show. That's interesting, fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't look like particularly interesting news, but the harsh reality, Russia's been incredibly proud of its international air show. It's run near Moscow. It's due to be happening 25th to the 30th of this month. Prestigious. Public always love to go to an air show. It's a good morale booster. But for Russia, it's also good for their aerospace industry, for selling, etc.
You think Russia would have put on a big display, wouldn't it?
Well, exactly. And it's the first time in 30 years that they've actually decided to cancel it. Why is that? Appear to be 3 main reasons, one of which is that Russians are worried that foreign delegations won't go, which is not surprising. Second one is they're worried about security. If you remember, they've had drone attacks in Moscow, and therefore it could disrupt. And the third one is that it does appear that Western sanctions are having a really debilitating effect on the Russian aerospace industry, and therefore there's probably not that many deals to do. It's also worth pointing out that General Sergei Severovikin, if you remember, he's the general who's gone missing. He's the boss of the aerospace forces. He went missing after Yevgeny Prigozhin's sort of failed coup attempt. I think it's just another very high-profile example of what's the impact of Russians' illegal invasion of Ukraine.